leader. Thanks for being with us here today, Congressman. You know, the White House saying there are 4 incidents of chemical weapons being used going as far back as March 19th. So the question might be, why now? Senator Lindsey Graham, John McCain, and even former President Clinton criticizing the U.S. that it needed to be more involved in Syria earlier. Is the president, you think, here being pushed into intervening now?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me, Richard. No, I do not think he's being pushed. He told us from day one that there was a red line over which he would not tolerate being crossed. And it seems with intelligence that has been submitted to him, he's come to the conclusion that on several occasions that red line was in fact crossed over, maybe as far back as March 19th. Now, you don't just wake up in the morning and decide a date. You have to look into these things. You have to let your intelligence people do their work, and when they come back with their results, then you use that to make your decisions. So I think the president is now making decisions as he promised he would do, based upon facts, not speculation. We know what kind of trouble we've gotten into before because people were dealing with speculations rather than facts. And so I think that we are going to move to do the right thing in Syria now, and I don't think he's being pushed. He's moving exactly as he said he would do months ago.
Now, the president, Ben Rhodes, saying this, saying that he is ruling out boots on the ground. Are you worried this is a slippery slope, though, where things can escalate?
Oh, we always worry as to whether or not the slope gets slippery. But I do believe that it's not time to be talking about boots on the ground. We've got to decide on whose side those boots will be marching. And right now, I don't think there is a real good notion as to who were the credible people with which to align. What we want to do now is de-escalate, and we do that by moving to maybe wall off some things, even a no-fly zone.
Congressman, what would you suggest to the president as to where that line should be drawn in terms of escalation?
Well, I think the president has all the information to make those decisions, and I do not have that information. I'm not privy to it, and so I'm not going to offer him any advice. What I will say is let history be the teacher here. Let's not move without the benefit of taking into account of what kind of trouble we get into when we don't look at the end game and make some decisions at the beginning as to what we want the ending to be. And so that's all the advice I would give the president.
And Ben Rhodes, in that statement from the White House, had said that the president, the White House, will be reaching out to Congress. If Congress were to approach you and say, we need support for $50 million, for instance, for a no-fly zone, would you say yes to that?
For a no-fly zone? Yes, I do believe that is one of the things we ought to be looking at. I don't know what the dollar figure will be, but I think that if it is a fact that Assad is using chemical weapons there in Syria, a no-fly zone at a minimum ought to be employed.
Now, I want to switch to immigration while we've got you here, Congressman. Debate, as you know, started this week in the Senate, but we've already missed several lines in the sand, shall we say, those deadlines that have been made by lawmakers. Is it losing steam right now? And because of that, not having the intensity that it needs once it reaches the House to make it through?
Well, I do believe that the Senate action will determine whether or not we get the kind of encouragement, intensity, if you please, that the House will develop. I think that Senator Reid has made it very clear that he's going to push this before the July break. I hope he does, and I hope they come out with a very definitive decision. I would hope 70 or more votes. And then after the July break, I would hope the House would move. I think that we need to create, especially on something like immigration, a real team effort here. And I believe it ought to be bipartisan. this majority of the majority is not the way we ought to be doing immigration reform. It ought to be bipartisan. It ought to be across the board. We ought to bring 12 million people out of the shadows because they are there, as we know, because it's been for the tacit approval of some enablers who have allowed this to get there because it benefits their bottom lines.
Congressman Jim Clyburn, thank you so much. You have a great weekend ahead.
Thank you very much.